Sump Pit / pump question. My house was built in the 50s and I bought it last year, so I don't know much about its construction. I have a concrete sump pit with 2 pumps in my basement, 1 horsepower and another battery operated as backup. The pumps send the water across my front yard, underground, into some sort of dry well in my driveway. The problem is that there are very old concrete / clay pipe that leads into the sump pit, and I can't see where the pipe comes from, as it is simply an opening halfway down in the pit. A guy that came fix one of the pumps said, very superficially, that should be a perforated pipe that runs under the basement and collects excessive water when it rains. That pipe is dry 99% of the time. Even if there is a strong rain, chances are no water will come out of there. But if the rain is very strong and persistent, over till 45 minutes, water starts coming slowly but increasingly out of the pipe, until a point it starts pouring so strongly that it is impossible for the pumps to keep up. The pit then floods and my basement is all wet. It may happen only once every couple of years, but just the expectation it may happen is quite enerving. Is this setup common? My basement is quite dry and finished, with no other leaks. The only water hazard comes from this crazy pipe. Having water coming into the pit, just to be then pumped out, does not seem to be an efficient setup. Can't this pipe be closed? Or can't this pipe be directly reverted outside without passing through the sump pit? I need to understand if there is a solution to this risk, please. Thanks, Daniel.
Hello, my name is. I look forward to helping you. This setup is very common and works very well. You should be okay, but could upsize the pumps and put in a high water alarm.
Hi, thanks, but I need a much more elaborate answer, please. I don't want this setup. My pump is already a 1 horsepower pump. I don't want to run the risk. An alarm won't do me any good. I don't want to be exposed to running out of electricity or the pump failing, getting clogged. Debris seems to flow from the pipe with water during storms, etc. Why can't this pipe go straight to outside the house, either by natural pressure, there seems to be a lot, or assisted by a pump? What happens if this pipe is closed shut? Thanks.
Well, without being on site, it's hard for me to say. I assume they are using a pump because there isn't enough grade to gravity drain? The basin in the garage is there for when the water table rises, and it can get rid of the water before it rises too high and does damage. Are you worried about it coming into your basement by traveling through the pipe backwards?
I don't want to be exposed to the risk of the sump pit flooding every time there is a downpour. Please check my original post again, it is all explained there. I am okay with having a sump pit and pump for protection. If the water level raises from beneath, then of course I want to have the pumps there to send water away. But why do I need to overload the whole system by allowing this old clay pipe that collects rainwater from all corners under the house to discharge into the sump pit? It is a fact that during a strong storm the amount and pressure of water coming from the pipe into the sump pit will flood the pit. The pumps won't have sufficient power to pump it all out, assuming there is power. If there is no power, then I am really screwed. My main question is, instead of allowing this pipe that collects rainwater under the house to discharge into the sump pit, why can't a pipe connection be made inside the pit to immediately revert this water to outside my house? There are many places I can send the water once outside my basement, the streets, the rainwater city system, another dry well, etc. I don't want to replace or close the pit and pumps. I just want to avoid overloading with water that could immediately send elsewhere instead of into the pit. Thanks.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yes, you could run it to the street gutter or your house's rain drains. It is rain/groundwater. You can dispose of it openly, just not into the sanitary sewer. Does this address your main concern?
Thanks, that we got to the right question. I just you to please elaborate on how it could be done, granted you are not here seeing my pit. My questions are, 1. Assuming I will do that I will make a connection that bypasses the sump pit and sends the water straight outside, can a new pipe connection be made, PVC, directly at the discharge opening inside the pit? I would like to avoid having to burst open my concrete flooring. 2. The discharge opening I would want to connect is about 10 feet below my front yard level, where it needs to go. Can I simply rely on the natural storm water pressure pushing the water up this 10 feet to the street, or should any pump be used? 3. Going in a different direction, what would happen if I simply closed shut this discharge pipe? Why can the rainwater simply stay at the ground under the house? Thanks.
Sorry for the delay. I've been called into the field. I can answer more in depth later today. Number 1, yes. Number 2, no. Number 3, the water table will raise and cause issues. Are you needing any more assistance, or are you satisfied with my answer? Hello, it seems Cone has opted out. Meantime, you can post 4 or 5 pictures of the sump and pump, some close-ups and some from a distance, so we can see what you have. We can go from there.
Just added 2 pics. Hi, you may have seen my original question. I posted 2 pictures and there you can see the pit, the pumps and also a hole in the interior wall, which is discharge pipe I refer as my problem here. As mentioned before, only during a very strong turn any water will come out of that pipe, so although rare, overflow is a possible problem, so now every time it rains we all get very anxious in the house. It flooded in mid-July. So the key point is that I believe to be very inefficient to have a discharge into the sump pit, which I know may flood the system, just to them use the pumps, which can fail, to push out of the house. If all this water being collected under the house is already traveling through a pipe, it seems logical to me to connect it directly to the outside, bypassing the sump pit to avoid/minimize the overflow risk. What I wanted to know, in a more elaborated way please, is if it is possible and how it could be done. That is the summary. If you have questions, let me know. Thanks.
Thanks. A pipe that lets water into the sump cannot go straight outside since it is collecting water below grade and cannot flow it uphill. So it has to flow to the sump and be pumped out. Replace that 120V pump with a 2 horsepower model, that will solve the problem. But only if there is power to the house. When power fails, the basement will flood unless you also upsize the battery backup pump with a pump twice the size. In that case, 2 larger pumps will not fit easily into that tight sump. It is possible but difficult. You will be better off digging a new sump 24 inches around by using a 4-foot length of concrete pipe. That will fix it. There are other options we can discuss as well, none cheap or easy however. To clarify, new sump made of 24-inch diameter concrete pipe, 48 inches long.
By long you mean deep.
4 feet deep, minus 4 inches of concrete plug poured at the bottom.
On my original idea. I understand the water may not have natural pressure to go above grade by itself. But can it be assisted by a pump in a closed system? Can't some sort of transfer pump push the water inside the pumps outside? The sump being an open system just leaves too much room for problems.
As a mechanical engineer, involved with these systems for over 55 years now, both large and small? The short answer to that option is no, it cannot be done. I can elaborate on why for hours. Summary: with no sump outside and the pump just collecting water from the ground in the area, it will run dry, even in flood conditions, and burn out the seals in a matter of minutes. Once you have what you need from me, it will be time to locate the finish and rate link, and click on it. I will appreciate that, and in exchange we'll hold the question open for any follow-up that you might need.
Not sure I understood the why, but I understood you don't like the idea. Can't the sump be sealed shut so the water can't overflow?
Yes, the sump can be sealed off so that it cannot overflow. The custom steel plate and fittings required will not be cheap, however. But it is a solution. It will, however, make servicing the pumps and float assembly a lot more difficult. The reason why is that you need a sump for the pumps to sit in. You can, however, fit a sump outside the house and put pumps in it. That would work, but would not prevent your basement from flooding by other means, such broken plumbing or groundwater entering the foundation. That option would also cost as much as just fitting a larger sump in the basement with both pumps doubled in size.
Okay, last two questions please. 1. Sorry to insist in the closed system idea, but what about some sort of ejector pump? Couldn't I connect that discharge hole into some sort of enclosed basin? I guess people usually use it for bathrooms and rains in the basement, which would then pump it out of the house, without the risk of overflow. 2. Not sure you can tell in the pictures the size, width, of the PVC pipes leading the pumps to outside. By increasing the power of the pumps as you suggest, will I need to change these pipes as well, or are they fine? Thanks.
Hello again. The enclosed toilet and sink basin in a basement use a sump either in the toilet itself and an ejector pump built to handle solids, and at about 1/4 the flow rate you need to handle your occasional rain surges. Aside from being way too small, it's also not a cheap solution. The pipes look to be in 1.5 inches to 2 inches size range. Those will handle pumps double the size.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/ythi.